Brian Scalabrine. He joins us. We are mere miles away from where he started at USC. Now, former assistant coach at Golden State. Scal, how are you?
Doug, this is the first time I've ever actually seen you face-to-face while working.
I know.
I do all the radio with you, and I've seen you out and about, but actually working with you on stage on TV, this is like a monumental moment for me.
I think this is the Big Three is interesting to me because, look, I'm not gonna lie, I have my doubts. I doubted my doubt was not that fans wouldn't show up because there's so many good names, and the way in which the Big Three is run, which you can talk trash, you can be physical. Like I think people. And I didn't know if you guys had it in you. Like, I know how guys, they talk, oh, yeah, I'll play.
Yeah.
I'll play every weekend. It's like pickup ball, right? Everybody says, I got a list of 15, you show up, and then there's like 9 guys and you're waiting on a 10th. To have, with the exception of Iverson, everybody show up, and more, you guys have been kind of the first run of this thing, but it feels like it's become a thing, and I'm impressed by how many guys have stuck with it.
Yeah, it's not like an all-star game or a charity game or anything like that where guys just go through the motions. It's highly competitive. Guys are super serious. They want to win, and you can see it when you're out there playing. Guys are really competing at a level where it gets physical. Guys are getting injured, and guys are talking trash. I think that's really the shift, and the game has really started. People have really started to take interest because of the shift that has happened.
For me, it would have been for a guy like you, big guys, they break down. They just do. And then it's physical, and you're playing harder than you can possibly simulate when you're playing pickup ball. Like, how do you navigate? Like, you don't want to get hurt, right? Like, you want to do this, but I don't want to get hurt. How have you been able to not get hurt?
So, like three times a week, go to yoga, twice a week, body work. It was only one game a week. It's not like the NBA when you got 4 games in 5 nights or anything like that. So I'm doing the, like full on everything all week to get myself ready for the weekend.
It's crazy. I did yoga last night. It's crazy. Like, I wish I did yoga when I played. I tell guys all the time. Matt Holliday's my boy. He's a DH for the Yankees, and he hurt his back. He's on the DL now. He hurt his back. And I told him to start the year. He told me he tweaked his back because he wasn't used to being a DH. He's used to being a left fielder. And so he was going and hitting in the cage the whole game, and he tweaked his back then. And I was like, dude, yoga. And it's weird. Like, it's something about athletes when you tell them early on about yoga, they're like, nah, I ain't doing any of that stretching stuff, right? Like, we didn't used to stretch, and now you're like, I love yoga. I feel so good afterwards.
No, I think it's because, like, yoga for the first 30 minutes and you're doing all the warrior ones and stuff like that, people dig that. But at the end, when you sit there and you do the namaste and the om like that, I think people will get turned off by that part of it. But at the end of the day, what are you doing? You're just stretching out and you're just getting your muscles. You don't have to be all spiritually into yoga to do yoga.
Yeah, you do like some sculpt. You do some, if you get some with some good music and a good teacher. And plus, usually most people in the class look better than you do. That's always a good thing. Brian Scalabrine joins us. I don't know if you heard this. Steven Jackson said that he thinks Kobe's going to play next year. Now, I don't like that would be a big get, obviously, for the league. But I kind of feel like this year for the Big Three is like the first run for a car. Like, they always tell you, like, don't buy the first series. Like, car comes out, it gets redone. Don't buy the first year because they're going to work out all the kinks. Like, have guys been calling you and asking you about this thing to whether or not they should join you? They should come play in this league next year?
Most of the time, people have come up to me like, I saw Big Baby in Chicago, and I asked him to play, and he was like, nah, man, my agent this, my agent that. But most guys have came up to me and said, like, man, I didn't know it was going to be like this. If I would have known it was going to be like this, then I would have played. Another guy, I went back and forth with Nate Robinson. He was going to be my co-captain. He said he's going to do it one day. The next day, he said he's not going to do it. Finally, at the end, I had to make a decision. He said he was out, so I went a different direction. But I think for sure Nate will play next year as well. And now, I just think that when you see it and you see it's televised, you see people talking trash, you see a lot of people there, I think people thought, like, okay, now, next year, I'll definitely be in.
Brian Scalabrine joining us. He coached in the NBA, played 11 years in the NBA. You'll see him on the Big Three from Los Angeles. You can watch it on Fox Sports 1 on Monday nights. The Knicks and Rockets are re-engaging in these Carmelo Anthony talks. Now, look, I love the idea of guys who like each other and getting as many bucket getters as you can. But this is a complete departure from what made the Houston Rockets kind of special. Like, last year, they built everything around James Harden. And obviously, they came up short in the playoffs. But now you got guys that everybody needs the ball in their hand. If they get him, Chris Paul needs the ball. James Harden needs the ball. Carmelo Anthony needs the ball. You've coached in the NBA, played in the NBA. Can this work?
Yeah, I mean, Carmelo Anthony, you're giving up Ryan Anderson to get him. I mean, I know the Knicks have said we're not taking Ryan Anderson's contract. We're not going to do it. There's nobody else. They traded everybody to the Clippers. They have nobody else on their roster. So unless somehow a 3-team deal would happen, you're giving up Ryan Anderson to get Carmelo. And you saw Carmelo play in USA Basketball. Everybody that is a Carmelo Anthony fan, and I would say that I'm in this boat. I love Carmelo Anthony on USA Basketball when he has guys that can create shots for him. I don't love the Carmelo Anthony where he gets the ball and he does the isolation. So remember, if he is on that team, the third best defender on an NBA team, which usually a guy is not that good, is going to be guarding him, I think it'll work. But I hear what you're saying.
No, like, look, that's Coach K. That's for a 6-game tournament. That's when you're surrounded by the best players in the league. The idea that in the NBA, Carmelo Anthony is going to let other people create shots, like, it sounds really good. But this is what he's been doing in the NBA for, we're at 14 years now? Like 14 years.
Never played with James Harden, though. Never played with Chris Paul.
14 years of habits. And it's Mike D'Antoni. Like, that marriage didn't work last time either.
I know. Like, the narrative is you think it's not going to work. But let me just ask you this, Doug. If he went to Cleveland and played with LeBron and Kyrie, assuming Kyrie was there, if he went to Cleveland, would you think he would take a lesser role, or you think he would do the same thing?
I think he would do the same thing, but I think it's different because LeBron's such a big, dominant personality. I thought this was interesting. This is from a B-Ball Breakdown podcast, which Dave McMenamin claimed that he says he saw Kyrie Irving in the playoffs in between the first round when they beat Indiana and the second round when they played Toronto, go consecutive days without speaking to a teammate in practice on that stage. It's one thing for people to go through your ups and downs during the regular season, but when you get to the playoffs, the main thing is the main thing. We're brothers, and we're pulling together on this one. Even at that level, there were things that made him sullen and reclusive from teammates. You've been on a championship team. You've been on a championship team with some unique personalities. Have you heard of something like this where a guy doesn't talk to anybody for a couple days at practice in the playoffs?
No, see, I don't like. First of all, the media at practice is only there for a fraction of the practice. So how does he know this? I'm getting tired of the stuff that's being leaked out on this one. If you want, like, just come on and own it. He didn't speak to a teammate. Well, I mean, Garnett has gone days without speaking to me. I mean, that makes big news. Come on, you know what I mean? It's just, why don't you just say it? He didn't speak to LeBron? Is that why? Is that why this is even a report? Because Kyrie didn't speak to LeBron? Why won't they say that? And the media isn't there at practice all the time. I find it interesting that Kyrie is getting, like the short end of the stick on this one. The Cavs tried to trade him first.
Yep.
The guy who won the championship. Yeah, go ahead and replay the block all you want. But no one scored for 4 minutes and 30 seconds except for Kyrie's step-back jumper over Steph.
Look, I'm with you. And I also, I pointed this out earlier to Steven Jackson. Like, I know people are going crazy over a guy splitting tens, right? They essentially have a winning hand. The Warriors have 21. They got 20. You feel like if they stuck together. But, like, this is LeBron's team, LeBron's town. Like, the agent for half the team, not his agent, but for half the team, is LeBron's best friend, right? So, like, it's his way or the highway. And if LeBron leaves, well, there's not much Cleveland Cavaliers there, and it's not your town. It's still kind of not your team. You're left kind of holding the bag. I understand this. You've won a ring. Go out and do your own thing. Like, he's taking a little bit of abuse because people just assume they'll get to the NBA Finals, and they probably would. But I think I agree with David Griffin. I think it's brave to say, you know what, I'm ready to try my own thing.
Yeah, but when you say he's trying his own thing, to me, what is it? He wants to get away from LeBron? He wants to do his own thing? Or he's just, like, tired of the fact that 1 year ago, I was a hero. Right. I know that LeBron came and made that block, right, and it's his, and all the things that you just mentioned.
We're watching the shot right here.
But a year ago, like, I'm the one that dropped 40. I'm the one that, now, if you don't want to trade me, then Kyrie has no right to say this. But they tried to move him first, which you answer this, Doug. If the Cavs are trying to move him, LeBron has his hand in that or not?
Absolutely.
So come on. So if you're Kyrie and you deal with LeBron every day, you just won the championship the year before on that big shot that you made, and the guy that getting all the glory for the championship that you won wants to get rid of you, you're okay with that? I wouldn't be okay with that if I was Kyrie. And I don't think he's trying to bail to get away from and do his own thing. I just think, like, that's messed up.
You played at USC. Josh Rosen plays at UCLA. He's come out and said student and athlete can't do it together, can't do it at the same time. Can you?
Probably at the level of being an NFL player or an NBA high-level player, it's going to be difficult. But there's a lot of people in college. I mean, you were one of them, right? That I took it. Me personally, I never planned on making it in the NBA. When I got a college scholarship to USC, my parents were ecstatic. They were good with that. And if I never would have played in the NBA, my life would have been really good. I got a free education. I had no student debts. I'm okay with that. But everybody's different. What he's talking about, in my opinion, is the top 10%. That is all in on making it to the NFL. That is all in on making it to the NBA. Those guys, it probably doesn't match up because the amount of time that you have to spend to make it for those guys and to think about the money that you're making when you go there, it's just like going to trade school. They're just going there to play sports. So, yeah.
But you talk about the 10%, but it's like 1% that actually make it. Like I'm not bothered by Rosen because he's like 21 years old. Like when I was 21 years old, I thought I knew everything too. I came from a home of two college-educated parents, both his parents very successful Ivy League grads as well. I'm more surprised at adults' reaction. People like us in the media, or even his parents not going like, "Hey, dude." It's hard to make it as a student regularly. It's hard to make it as a student if you have a full-time job. And it's not impossible. It's very, very difficult. Hey, it's difficult to make it as a player, but at some point, something has to sacrifice. Maybe your personal life has to sacrifice.
Yeah.
Maybe your school has to sacrifice. Maybe your sport has to sacrifice, but you do have to sacrifice something, but it is not impossible. It is just difficult. That's how I'd work it.
But would you say that at the highest level, let's say you're right, it's more like 1%, but you say that those guys shouldn't make the sacrifice? They should just focus in on the sports?
No, I honestly think you can do both. I think this is massive.
Yeah, that's a good call. I
think it's massive. Like, dude, we had tons of downtime in college, and it's easier now.
That's because you weren't cool, man. If you were cool like these guys, it'd be different.
No, I mean, like, look, you don't. Most guys don't even have to go to class anymore. You do classes online. Like, it's not as you have, and if you have an issue with a class, you get a tutor. And this whole idea, like, well, I had a class that I wanted to take, but football said no way. Like, no, you didn't. Not in the spring. Like, you mean to tell me that you couldn't move things around? Every coach will tell you, I have moved practice because a star player has a class. I can't do it. Academics does play some sort of – the academic advisor can come in and go, this guy's not playing. If you want to do it, you can do it. And if you're Josh Rosen, you're starting quarterback at UCLA, you can absolutely take a class if you want to. I'm calling BS on that one. Absolutely calling BS.
Are you calling 100% BS? Because I'm not calling 100%.
I want to know the class. I want to know the class. I want to know if it's offered in the spring. I want to know if it's offered online. I want to know if it's offered in the summer. I want the class.
Yeah, you're saying if there's a will, as in you really want to do it, you can do it.
Yes.
Okay, I don't disagree with that. But I think
most
you're better off focusing on what's going to get you
But
paid.
there's also, you can only focus on football or basketball. Some of the guys are like, well, I work out all day. Like, no, you don't. You can't go into a gym and spend 8 hours in the gym. You don't get anything accomplished. Get in there for an hour, get your shots up. But you can do that twice a day.
You're saying that as a grown man, not as an 18-year-old.
I understand. That's my point.
Yeah, you're like, come on.
Those of us adults know, like, I spent all day at the facility. Like, you spent all day in the locker room playing video games and ping pong with your boys.
Yeah,
you didn't spend all day watching film breaking it down.
I'm not going to disagree with what you're saying, but I do think for some guys it would be more beneficial for them to focus on sports. And for some guys, they should know it would be more beneficial for you to focus on school.
Yeah, you're not going to be a brain surgeon, buddy. You better go and tackle somebody.
And some guys are. Michael Doliak, he wanted to be a brain surgeon, but he actually did both.